Mm.
So Barrett and I wanted to talk about abundance, and we have had the best time. When we do these live videos or recorded videos, we can get into a lot of laughter, which is really awesome in order to break up whatever energy it is that we're feeling or dealing with. Um, and so what I wanted to talk about today is I was getting a download from the universe about abundance and about how there's such a myth. There's myths behind abundance, and I think it's misleading to people. And I started getting empowered and angry about it, because I think so many people. I look around Facebook and I see that people are told, if you just take this one course, or if you just sign up to do this type of learning how to communicate with animals, or learning this or that, that you're going to be able to do it, and you're going to step into that abundance, or you're going to be able to receive abundance if you create this vision board. I want you to talk about that, because I know that's part of it. Like, yeah, like we have to put things out to the universe. But what I started realizing, and even from my own work that I've done, is that there's so much more behind how we can come into that abundance, and what prevents us from it. And really what I want to talk about is what is blocking us or preventing us from reaching that abundance, no matter what it is. Because I know you're going to talk about, there's many different types of abundance. It's not just about money. But what I was getting was, you and I have talked a lot about patterns this month on our calls, and I've written blogs about it. And patterns are what is keeping us stuck, and it's what is preventing us from reaching what it is we want, whatever type of abundance we're searching for. It also became known to me when we were doing our Wednesday night Zoom call, and somebody asked a question around abundance, that they said that their bank account goes up and down, and especially now with COVID and everything going on in our world, that's happening a lot to everybody. But even if it wasn't COVID, it happens. And she said she feels better and worse about herself based on how much money is in her account. And I know there's people out there who have felt that too and can relate to it. And it so I let her know that her self-worth is being tied to the amount of money that she has, which she already knew. So that was great. She sensed that. But then she said, but you know what? It's not just when I have less money in my bank account, is I actually have this belief around people with money, that they're people with a huge amount of money who are very wealthy are not nice people. So what came through for her was a pattern. And it's more than just our self-worth is tied to money, or people who have money, or a false belief because of our conditioning that people who have money are not kind. Um, if you dig deeper, there's always a pattern behind these beliefs, or this conditioning. So for her, with money, if she has too much money, she's not a good person. If she doesn't have enough money, she's not a good person. Because one involves her self-worth, and one involves just her overall way she interacts in the world. Both of these are not a good person. So she's in a no-win situation, a lose-lose situation when it comes to money. And so what I would say to her if she was in front of me, and I am going to address this, is um, where did that happen to you? Where in your life did someone put you in a lose-lose situation? Did you feel like you could never win? And what does this remind you of? Because what she's doing is repeating this pattern with money. And you and I know patterns can be repeated within ourselves, out in the world, with another person, and with tangible energy, things like money. So she's repeating this pattern with money. Um, and so again, once again, we're uncovering that patterns are a huge challenge for all of us, and really the reason behind a lot of why we're stuck, and why we're not happy, and also this why we're not abundant.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's so many ways, there's so many different types of patterns that we each reflect on our own lives that are causing blocks. And really what it's doing is just kind of clogging your own filters, blocking that flow. Because when we talk about abundance, It really talks about the universe, right? There's just, it speaks to quantity. We usually think of abundance as something that's very positive and joyful that we want to bring into our lives, but we all have access to it. We're all worthy of it. This woman's so worthy of receiving that, but it doesn't necessarily come in, or we don't feel it. It's always there, but we don't feel it because things block us. And if we, like you just so beautifully described, what is it? It's these patterns that are putting in a filter that is blocking it from being received. But everybody has access. You don't need to go through anybody to get anything, because the universe is providing. We are always being cared for. We're always being given things, even if we receive things or we get things that aren't looking like the way that we want it to come. Every ask, as we know, Beth, is answered. But it's those looking at our patterns, and it's really speaks, just listening to you speak about this woman, it speaks to her mindset. It's our conditioning. We've been conditioned. If we go back and we look at our past and experiences and our interactions, or what we've been kind of told, it does shape how we are looking at something, how we're looking at another person, or we're looking at some tangible object. So for her, she was using the example of money. And really, what is money? So many times we, in society, because we live in a capitalistic society, we tie money to worth. We tie it to our identity. We tie it to our value, when we are also valued. And really, what is energy? What is money but energy? It's just an energy. So when we look at it that way, we put it in the same kind of bucket with other things that are energy, because we're energy too. We can change the way that we're interacting with it. We can change the way that we're thinking about it. And it helps us to change a pattern that is keeping us stuck, so we can unblock that and allow that flow to come in.
So a pattern is a block in the flow of energy, really. It's a block in our natural flow. It's interesting. I was thinking about an example that about, I had a friend who was living in a certain area, and he wanted to move. There were things that were going wrong left and right, and he wanted to move, but he had fear around it, which is normal. And all these things kept happening, these negative things. And he decided that he was going to go, and he was going to move. And while he, right before he left, he had all this fear that he almost was like, am I making the wrong decision? And I felt that he was going towards something that was more abundant for him, and that he needed to go towards that, even with the fear. And so he did. He left and he moved to a new place, and all this abundance came to him. He found a job very easily. He could explore the area. He felt so good. All those negative things slipped away. So the pattern of him was being stuck in this. There were many things that went into it, but being stuck in this place and not wanting to take chances. That was his pattern.
But it also speaks to what a gift, right? So many times we look at something as being such a negative, like
Which is the gift.
Lose a job.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we're not supposed to be there. We're supposed to,
Yeah.
What it's doing, it's helping to pivot us. So we're not supposed to be there anymore. We lose something. Most oftentimes we lose, maybe we lose our, a position, or something changes, a job or something, because our time is up there. We are actually supposed to, in our soul journey, on our soul path, to move. And sometimes we don't get those messages. So it almost seems so abrupt that we get that block. But it's really actually is a gift to help work with us, to move us into where we are supposed to go. And then we so often find, oh my gosh, like I never loved this job. I hated this job. I finally left the job. Sometimes you need a push out the door, which is not fun. It's not, doesn't make you feel good, but you go into something else. And all of a sudden you feel like this is my calling. This is where I feel like I'm resonating. This is what's making me happy. And so we're always being, we talk about this all the time, but we are so being guided. We're so loved. We are never alone. We're always being guided. And sometimes things that do not look like it's abundance, they don't look like they're happy, they're not joyful, is actually helping us to make a change that does bring us into joy and love and abundance, because that's what we're worthy of, and that's what is always flowing.
Which brings me back to the original point of, if we break a pattern, whatever that pattern is, I don't want to change. The unknown is scary, or whatever the pattern is, we will come into abundance. That's bringing the abundance flows to us because we are breaking that pattern. It doesn't have to be directly with money. That was an example we use, but it doesn't have to be directly with that. I just had a trip where I went to Arizona, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to go. And then, you did a lovely reading for me, and I used my gifts, and I knew I was to go, but I had fear around it, and it had to do with changes that will come in my life. And money was in the back of my mind, but not really a big piece of it. But I did go, and then did get so much out of it. And then when I came back, something happened in a completely different area of my life, which brought me into the exact money that my trip cost. And so it wasn't so much that in that situation that I was worried about the money, but there I did something. It was in the flow of what I was, my soul purpose, I was breaking a pattern in some way of, staying in fear, staying put, not moving forward. And then there came the abundance, not even asking for money. But you're right. That's how we see abundance is with money. That's how it's rewarded, but it's just energy. I could have been rewarded in other ways.
But I think it also is a beautiful example. It speaks to trust, just to trust. Maybe it was sort of in the back of your mind, how much it was going to be, costing for you to take that trip. But look how everything unfolds. We are always being cared for. We are always being given so much. But we have to just, change the mindset, but also trust, because then we're just like in awe, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was the same amount of money that I just spent, and it's really just affirming for you that you followed your intuition, you trusted, you followed through, and you're being rewarded. I think of another example of a woman who was in a city. She was doing working with some homeless. She had a certain amount that she was short because of the situation right now with everything being so upside down. And a man came in and felt like his wife had just passed, and he wanted to do something in honor of her. He wrote out a check. It was exactly the amount that covered her for that month. I mean, so we don't understand. There's such a matrix. There's such wonder to how this universe works, how we are all interacting for one another. And when we show up with our real self, we show up with trust, and we go on faith, we go on our intuition, and with the highest, just putting out, what is the highest purpose? What is my highest love? How am I to respond in this moment? We so oftentimes find things that are like, oh my God, how could this even work? This man who didn't even know, the stranger, how would he know exactly that same amount? It's just defies our logic. And the universe doesn't work on logic. The universe works on wonder.
Yeah.
And we're, we're always it just warms our hearts, but it's another example of abundance, that we are always being cared for. We are always, abundance is always flowing to us. But as you mentioned, we have to kind of do the work too, to kind of look at ourselves, or only for ourselves. We can only look at ourselves and say, where things sort of keep rotating in circles, it's like, a gerbil wheel in my head that is not allowing me to open myself up to that. And
So
that speaks to those patterns.
yes. And so what I think is important for people to know who are watching this is that we all have our own patterns and we all have our own journey. And what got me thinking about all this to begin with was thinking about seeing these classes being offered to people to, to connect with, to loved ones who have passed, or to connect with their ancestors, or to become an animal communicator. And so, if someone is guided based on their intuition that this is in their path, then that's a great way to open up for them. But it's not for everybody, and everybody should not sign up for those classes. The abundance will not come. They will not open up to that because maybe one of two reasons: maybe they have work to do around their patterns first, or two, that's not in their path. So we really owe it to ourselves to really check in with our intuition when these things are offered, when we hear a spiritual teacher, when we are offered an opportunity, is this really for me? Because there's so much more, we really have to do it ourselves, because people offer these things, and really they should ask these questions, and I know, I feel like when you and I do our talk, we're not promising the world to anybody, but we're there to help them in whatever their journey is. And I think that when you follow your intuition, like we've been talking about, and you can take a look at what patterns you might have to break free of that when it stops you from looking at your intuition, or from reaching your potential. If I had not gone on that trip, whatever it is, then if we encourage people to do that, then they can know where that abundance lies for them, whether it is in one of those courses, or or they need to do some work around their view of money. Like, money is energy, but people have huge patterns. Most people have huge patterns around money: fear of lack, fear of having too much, fear of what we've seen that, people who have so much money are greedy, or not kind, or, for every false belief like that out there, for every pattern that gets created from that belief, you will find something that debunks that. You will find it. It will be out there. So, the greatest way we can come into abundance, in my opinion, is to do the work, to observe ourselves, to check in, to ask ourselves, what are our beliefs, where are our patterns showing up, and then check in with our intuition about what's in our journey, what's on our path, and then take that action. Take that action, and then the abundance will come. And there's a myriad of ways of creating more abundance when you are onto that, but you can't create the more abundance when you don't have the abundance to begin with. That makes sense.
But you can, I think the last piece here is, you can know that you are worthy of abundance, that the abundance is going to flow to you just like it's going to flow to the person next to you. There's unlimited abundance. And also to be in wonder and gratitude, to know with gratitude that it's all going to come. So how it comes is different, as you mentioned, for each person. We're all on our own soul journey. We're all just who we are. So we can't compare ourselves to the person to the left or to the right, but to know with our heart that it is our birthright. It is to come with us, to go with wonder, but also a sense of gratitude for all that is to come. And that actually opens things up more, because then you're much more, as you spoke about being aware, you're more aware of the different signs, because the universe is always trying to bring us into guidance. It's trying to guide us into it, but we're open to receive it. And that helps us kind of break down mindsets and conditioning that gets stuck. We just need to get unstuck, but it's all for our, it's all for our taking. It reminds me of one of the spirits that we connected with, Beth, who said, God's like shuffling a deck of cards and giving out, has all the aces, in his back pocket. And he wants nothing more, or the universe or great spirit, or however you say, but nothing more than to give it to you. We know we're so loved. We're so loved, and everyone is worthy. Everyone is loved. So to give yourself love, to give yourself a sense of knowingness that you are worthy, that you are loved, that you are guided. And then just sort of let things, step back a little and let things unfold. But be observant on what things, that no longer, this pattern no longer serves me, or this is a new opportunity or a new feeling to step into. Oftentimes when we are in an uncomfortable situation, out of our comfort zone, that's when so many things of magic kind of, unfold. And then it's usually later that we look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that totally changed me. That opened me to something more. And it's all abundance in every which way that can flow in.
Absolutely. Beautiful. And if we don't feel love, if we don't feel worthy, if we don't feel that we're guided and connected, then that's all that is a pattern.
Mhm.
It's false beliefs that create patterns. And that is the first to unravel. So then you can feel that and then create that abundance. And Barrett and I we have a month of free Zoom calls that we do. In January, it's been all about this. It's been all about patterns. And if you join our Zoom discussion group on Facebook, you can find it from Your Soul Guides. You can watch the videos on patterns, and people have been moving through their patterns who have joined us on our calls. And we are going to develop a course just on this. This is extremely important, and the base for all the work, any spiritual work that you can do is to know your patterns. So join us there. Or February coming up, we're going to be talking all about COVID. So I know that's a situation that has affected all of us. So thank you for joining us, and like us on Facebook, follow us, and we appreciate you being here. Have a great day.
Have a good day.